Hello, my name is Nicholas Morgan. I'm an editor at Aval News, and this is Turkey Abroad. Joining me today is Dr. Tamas Szigetvari. He is a senior research fellow at the Institute of World Economics in Budapest. Dr.
Hi,
Tamas,
hello.
how are you?
Thank you. Fine. It's great to be here.
So today, Hungary is now the country that has assumed the presidency of the Council of Europe. And I think this one's important to really talk about, given the closeness and attention that has been paid now to the relationship between Turkey and Hungary. And for the last several years, Hungary has been something of a good partner for Turkey within the European Union, which, of course, is separate from the Council of Europe. And both Prime Minister Viktor Orban and President Erdogan have had something of a good personal relationship to go along with it. And Hungary's term is coming at a time where Turkey has faced criticism from the Council for a number of things. For instance, abandoning the Istanbul Convention several months ago now, its refusal to abide by European Court of Human Rights rulings, which is overseen by the Council of Europe. And already we have a few groups, including Amnesty International just yesterday, who are warning about Hungary's tenure as president of the Council of Europe because of their concerns about Hungary's own rights record. But all this said, what do you think a Hungarian presidency at the top of the Council of Europe means for Turkey, given whatever priorities Hungary has laid out for its term?
Well, first of all, we have to know that the Council of Europe is, of course, not the same of the European Council. So the Council of Europe has a much lower range of importance, political importance, and power or influence on issues. So it's not a body of the European Union, which is an economic power, but it is a kind of political and cultural and legal grouping of European countries, which set, of course, norms which are important. However, its real political power and influence is much lower. On the other hand, of course, yes, it's still important that it set values. And as it was announced by the Hungarian foreign minister just now, by taking the presidency, Hungary will go on with these human rights and other issues. However, it will set a priority on minority issue, which is an important issue for Hungary, having own minorities in neighboring countries, and also family and traditional norms. So from that aspect, of course, for Turkey, it may be a good news that Hungary will, as a president, will, of course, the presidency itself is maybe have a power to set some agenda and priority. However, it's not the only country deciding on how to act and on which issues. However, it has a bit larger influence on such agendas. From that side, it may be a good news for Turkey, since it will not go on so much with human rights issues. We just have seen that it is also Hungary, were vetoing common European Union declarations against China or against Israel as well. So from that aspect, Hungary has a quite realistic policy, not going into such human rights issues, claims or in other countries. Everyone should deal with its own issues. That's the major policy line of the current Hungarian government.
And I'd like to. There's two strands to this also that I would like to touch on quickly with you. And one of them is the wider relationship between Turkey and Hungary, of course, because as you mentioned, over the years, these are more recent, where Hungary has vetoed these human rights decisions within the European Union. In this case, Israel was the most recent one. China was before that. And each time that the European Union was moving in the direction of sanctioning Turkey over its drilling activities in the Eastern Mediterranean, Hungary was usually among the countries that voted against those sanctions, along with Germany, Spain, and a few other ones. And then, of course, Hungary and Turkey have some economic relations that they have been talking about in each visit between President Erdogan and Prime Minister Orban. But of course, there's this. This is not to say that there isn't limitations attached to any growing relationship between the two countries. To you, what do you say is the value that Hungary provides to Turkey and vice versa in this relationship on an economic and on a political level?
Well, the Hungarian government, which is in rule since 2010, announced a new foreign economic policy, this Eastern opening. Of course, in the years when the European demand was decreasing after the financial crisis, it was quite a logical policy that we should find new markets for our products and find new partners in China, in the Arab countries, in Turkey, in the Central Asia. So that Eastern opening, in this Eastern opening policy, Turkey is one of the most important partners. It's close to Hungary. Its economy is quite well. Its size of its economy is quite substantial for Hungary, and it's really there. There are also quite good cultural, historical ties. For Turkey, Hungary in Europe is the country which which is the closest in many respects, this kinship. And also Hungary started to use this type of policy. It's a practical issue, actually. This Turk origin of the Hungarians. It has a long tradition in Hungary, this Finno-Ugric or Turkish origin, and it's still debated in Hungary. The language is clearly a Finno-Ugric. However, there are strong, this Turanist movement from the 19th century claim that Hungary is of Turkish origin, and that's why Hungary is also an observing member of the Turkish Council as a country which has Turkish origin. However, here as well we can see how much it is a practical political decision, because the declaration against China was in Uyghur issues, and Uyghurs are a Turkish minority in China. So here we can see that actually if it is about China, then of course the practical economic interests are rather on having good relations with China and not to defend any kind of supposed kinship with a nation there. So it's really a practical issue that Hungary started to follow. Well, the impacts are not that clear. So there are many different analysis about this eastern and later southern opening of Hungary. Turkey also started a similar policy in the same age, so that may be a kind of similarity between Hungary and Turkey. That also Turkey, with lower European demand for its product, also started to turn towards Arab countries and Eastern countries and also African markets. However, in the long term, it turns out that still the European markets is decisive for these countries. So they cannot build their policy on only relations with these Eastern or even fast-growing Eastern markets. So it's a question how much really it works. But still, I think Hungary and Turkey has a good cooperation potential. Currently, its bilateral trade is around $3 billion, but there are really a lot of projects going on and a lot of business people interested really in these close relations. And Turkish investors are quite active now in Hungary, and also Hungarians have a lot of businesses in Turkey. So there are really good potentials in bilateral relations. I think even without politics or state support for these businesses, I think there are really clear options or possibilities for both sides in the other country.
And then there's a second part to that one too, and that is the personal relationship that I mentioned earlier between Prime Minister Orban and President Erdogan, which of course attracts a lot of comparisons between the two men, given that they both engage in populist, right-leaning policies at home, and they are seen as the vanguards of the quote unquote illiberal side of world politics that we're seeing today, on top of the fact that they have their own separate gripes with the West. And of course, I've seen the visits between President Erdogan to Budapest and the comments being made, and there's of course a certain amount of warmth that seems to be shared between the two of them. Um, I also read a report in Political Capital from a couple of years ago that described some of the other informal connections that brought the two men together to show that there might be more to the relationship than just the fact that they're heads of state of two countries interested in building ties. To you, is this relationship that's growing between Turkey and Hungary contingent in any way on this personal relationship between Orban and Erdogan, or where does this dynamic fall within the broader relationship?
Well, as I said, there are really cultural or historical ties that strengthen it. So for even being as a child, when I was in Istanbul in the bazaar, when they heard that I'm Hungarian, everyone said that we are brothers, and so there is really a feeling, especially in Turkey, towards Hungary. In Hungary, this type of memories are related to the 150 years when we were part of the Ottoman Empire, are not that fine. So we have in the schools, we learned that Turks were here and invading Hungary. However, still people now realize that Turkey is an important partner. And in politics, it's really this similarity and this personal relation, I think, is something which makes these relations even closer. As I said, for both countries, to find new partner, for Hungary to find partners in the East was part of the politics. And I think for Turkey to find partners in the European Union was also an important part of its policy. Decision making in the European Union, of course, can be influenced by prime ministers in the council. So here to have someone who is able to be for countries is always important. Of course, there are personal similarities. Both prime ministers or presidents are fans of football, which is really make this relation even closer than this friendship. However, yes, it's interesting that the similarities really in this politics. I think it's maybe that is also a factor that makes this relation closer. That also the Hungarian politics and also the Turkish politics were this similarity started by the 2008 financial crisis and afterwards. So the IMF, the role or the relation of the country with the IMF was one of the points. So both countries had to relied on IMF help. However, both of them wanted to avoid this help, and in most countries the rhetorics about the global financial institutions were quite similar. Then the next step with the relations with the EU. The Hungarian politics was also based on a kind of national sovereignty, and we have to fight against Brussels. And it's quite similar in case of Turkey, that there are these global forces and European forces that would like to change our politics, and we are here the national. So these rhetorics makes also quite a lot of similarities between the two countries. And of course, if there are such similarities, the two countries in many issues may rely on each other, and that may also strengthen relation among them. So I think there are really many external factors that push or help these countries closer to each other. However, maybe yes, these personal relations are always important between leaders or among leaders. So whether they are really willing to make close relations, whether they really feel that the other is a partner in many issues they can use. Of course, in politics, that's always important, that we can use each other. It's not about friendship. In politics, friendship is something which is, you cannot rely on. But if we have common interest, it works. And here, I think there are really a lot of common interest in many issues that they can use.
I'd like to also just rewind a second to one of the policies you mentioned that was implemented by Hungary over the years, and that's the Eastern Opening, which was aimed at prioritizing building these new relations with countries to Hungary's east. And from what I understand, the policy did not achieve all of its goals before it came to something of a quiet pause. But while it was still active, it did involve more outreach to, of course, Turkey, as well as other members of the Turkic world, so to speak, like Azerbaijan and the countries of Central Asia. And Hungary today is an observer within the Turkic Council, and that relationship, I think, is uh, interesting to me, especially after I learned that when the Turkic Council actually has well, officers of the Turkic Council in Hungary have some level of diplomatic immunity, which certainly shows a level of importance that Budapest might attach to the organization in my eyes. But what is the specific importance for Hungary actually in flirting with the Turkic Council and playing up this Turkic identity now and then? Is it part of this outreach still to Turkey and these other Turkic countries? Or how should we best understand that? Because as you mentioned also, there's a lot of complexity involved. For instance, on speak of this kind of cultural connection, this his shared history, so to speak, where Turkey might see it much more benignly than Hungary might after years of living under the Ottoman Empire. How do we understand this all?
Well, I think in the Hungarian foreign policy now that they would like to be smart, making smart policy. So being part of the European Union, which helps Hungary in many ways, however, having a different way, which creates specific relations with countries, which also helps Hungary. So to be the smart guy in the club, it's a question, however, how much it works. Really, if we try to be here the smart guys who use both cards and we can play good with. So we are in Europe, and we are enjoying all the benefits of it. But also we make specific relations with China, with Turkey, and other countries with which the European Union maybe have not that good relations. And here as well we can use it. So this pragmatic policy, it's a question how much it will pay off. Maybe yes, it's possible that yes we can use both cards, and then we will be the winners after all by having really the best relations with these countries. Of course, Azerbaijan has much more money. It's interesting that Hungary has this Christian identity card as well now playing, and we have help. Hungary helps, which is helping Christians all over the world. And this rhetoric in migration is used by the government that we would like to have a Christian Europe. On the other hand, in the Azeri-Armenian disputes, which is between a Muslim and a Christian country, Hungary was, well, in many respects, much better relations with Azerbaijan's political relations, partly because, of course, Azerbaijan has much more economic potential. So here as well, we can see this pragmatic approach, as I mentioned, by the Uyghur issue, that yes, we opt for the country with which we can make better deals, economic deals, and that's what matters. And also in Central Asia, countries which owns a lot of petrodollars are much better partners than other countries who are not in the same position. So I think that is much more important, this practical approach to this Turkish kinship and everything, historical background, than really the cultural issue behind it, or this.
Do you think that Hungary has a serious intent on becoming a full member of the Turkic Council, even though the council, the body itself, is seen as something of a very limited organization, generally one, some analysts even just see it as a vehicle set up by Turkey to build solidarity for its own foreign policies, and it's not particularly influential compared to, say, of course, the European Union or even other regional blocs like CSTO, increasingly BRICS, so on. How do I want to phrase this? When it comes to the approach to the Turkey Council, does it really carry that much practical benefits for Hungary, or is it just still a means to pragmatically open up new markets, and membership is just possible or not?
Well, yes, I think it's not too costly for Hungary to join this organization and to opt for it. So it may mean also that this Turkey country may see Hungary as their a bridge to the European Union, and put here some economic regional centers if they would like to get to the European market. So it may lead to some benefits for Hungary, and it's not so costly. So I think that's really a pragmatic approach. rather. Well, there are maybe personal willingness as well. I know the person who representing here the Turkey Council, who were former ambassador in Turkey, who is very much for these initiatives, and he have a quite good relation with political circles. So I don't know, maybe it's only some personal issues that may result in it, and of course the politics says, okay, why not? I think that's also part of it. This kind of
strict pragmatism.
Yes.
And of course, you know, throughout all of this, we've talked about how Turkey and Hungary see in one another as a partner that they work together with. And as Hungary is looking to really build up its relations in the Turkic space, whether it's economic or political, is it fair to say that Turkey is also looking to make the most use of Hungary's outreach to these countries as an opportunity to cement its own ties with a country, in this case Hungary, that has provided it some degree of cover and benefits within, say, its larger foreign policy, especially as it relates to Europe?
Well, I think it is possible. Of course, we can see that Turkey has now a much larger interest towards neighboring regions in the Balkans, and Hungary may be also part of this type of interest. So it's the wider Balkans, the former Ottoman area. So here as well, Hungary belongs to it. Hungary has monuments as well. So that's a natural partner for Hungary and for Turkish cultural organizations or economic organizations. It's really together with the Balkans here as well. There are giving money for monuments in Szigetvari, for example, where there is this Sulaiman Turba and for many others. So I think it also that may be an issue. But as I said, from the countries in the European Union, yes, with some Mediterranean countries as well, they have quite good relations. However, for different reasons, with other European countries, of course, there are much the relations are much more tense with Austria, with Germany, with France, with the Netherlands, with the Nordic countries. So from that respect, Hungary is really a potential partner who is, especially under the current government, is always benign and friendly with Turkey, and they are really helping, and Hungary is for the Turkish accession process as well. It's interesting that actually so these new member countries are much more for the enlargement of the European Union towards Balkans and Turkey. That has also maybe this practical view that economic relations to this region may be beneficial for Hungary as well and for the region. But of course, that's why it is Hungary may be an important partner for Turkey as well. It's a small country related to Turkey. However, it is really maybe important. And yes, of course, it's a question how much really Orban is influential in the European Union. So, we may say that from many respects he is influential. So a small country as Hungary is really in many respects able to shape the European policy or have an impact on European policy. Not always good for many spectators. However, it is really something that many other small countries are not able to do. So from that respect, he can have an influence on the European Union. Sometimes, yes, he's playing this game that he tried to go as far as he can, but however, he's ready for compromise. So he's really tried to make a smart game here as well, that we are cooperating, but sometimes we are not cooperating, depending on our interests. How can we have the most of it? In the long term, it will turn out whether it's a good play or it will be Hungary will put on the side and said that, okay, now we have enough from you. But in politics, you have to play games, and sometimes the strangest games are working the best.
Well, I do hope that we end up seeing more of this to continue on with the conversation, especially since only today the Council of Europe presidency began, but there's always going to be something popping up between Turkey and Europe, and Hungary always has its part to play within it, whether it's another meeting about sanctions or a meeting on a separate topic, but it's one that's going to continue to develop, and one that I also, above all, look forward to continue talking to you with here on Turkey Abroad.
Pleasure. Okay, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you very much, Thomas. My name is Nicholas Morgan, and this is Turkey Abroad.